You have to get a plan. And most people fall short of their changes because they haven't mapped out a plan. Behind most people's overeating is that there's some emotion that's driving them to overeat. For some people it's unworthiness, for some people it's fear, for some people it's discomfort, but something, emptiness, is causing them to overeat, because whenever they eat, the eating of that food repeatedly makes the feeling go away, makes the unworthiness go away, and we unconsciously, not consciously, begin to identify the eating with making that feeling go away. Now the problem is that if the feeling is unworthiness and we're addicted to unworthiness, at first the feeling, eating the food, makes the feeling go away, but if we're unworthy, we're going to want to eat till we remember how unworthy we really are. So then we overeat, and then after we overeat, we feel unworthy again. Now, the person who's locked into the emotional memory of unworthiness has to begin to look at her unworthiness. And we looked at that unworthiness, and you, instead of overeating, or instead of becoming distracted, listed every thought that creates the feeling of unworthiness, or what thoughts you think when you feel unworthy, or what you say to yourself when you're unworthy. List them all. And you're not going to get them all in the first shot, but pay attention to them. And then every time you get a new one, I want you to write it down on a piece of paper on the wall somewhere in your room and list them all out. And memorize that list. Memorize every single one so you can say exactly what it is. I want you to commit it to conscious memory. Then I want you to make another list, and I want you to list all the behaviors you do when you feel unworthy or unhappy, or whatever the emotion is. List that you overeat, list that you complain, list that you sulk, list that you shop too much, list that you watch television, you don't get anything done, that you procrastinate, whatever it is that you do. List all of those behaviors. And every day I want you to just keep becoming aware of all of those different behaviors that you unconsciously behave as. Then I want you another day make another list. So you may do the first week may just be all the thoughts. The second week would be all the behaviors, or you may want to do all thoughts and behaviors at the same time. If it's too overwhelming, do these one at a time. The third one would be, what are the other feelings that are generated from thinking this way and acting this way? What do you feel after you feel unworthy? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel negative? Do you feel pessimistic? Do you feel unloved? What is then the feeling that is created from these thoughts and actions? And list all of those out completely. You'll see that they're all kind of connected. But then all I want you to do is to become aware and conscious and memorize every one of these. So in the morning, when you wake up, what you're going to do is you're going to say to yourself, how do I not want to think as the new me? And then you're going to review every one of these thoughts. You're going to say, I don't want to think this way. I don't want to think this way. I don't want to think this way. I want you to become familiar with all those unconscious thoughts to make them conscious. Now, why is this important? Because in order for you to unlearn the old self, you got to become conscious of those automatic programs that are driving your behaviors and sending you in the wrong direction and sabotaging your actions. It's the unconscious thoughts and the unconscious behaviors that define reality, not the conscious ones. The conscious mind is only 10% of the mind. The unconscious, or the subconscious, is more than 90% of the mind. And those unconscious behaviors, unconscious thoughts, those unconscious programs are so automatic that they tend to lead us to our destiny, and they have more power than 10% of the conscious mind. So we got to go into the operating system of the programs. We got to go into the computer, and we got to bring the faulty program up to the surface so that we can begin to examine it and look at it. if we can become conscious of it, in our waking day, we have more control over it. Now, as far as your overeating, as far as your exercising, the first 2 weeks, I don't want you to do anything. I want you to overeat if you want to overeat. I want you to not exercise if you don't want to exercise. As a matter of fact, the first 2 weeks, you should do neither. Because I don't care if the person is exercising and eating right, if they're still unworthy, they're going to have difficulty making sustained changes. Because at some point, in their weakest moment, some voice is going to come up and it's going to talk them out of greatness, and then they're going to start to binge again. If you take away the unworthiness, there's no reason to binge. So, now, after you get all of these memorized and all committed to memory, you should review them every morning for the first couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe one for the first week, one for the second week, one for the third week. Thought, action, feeling. Then around the 4th week, I want you to then, in your mind, after you say, how am I not going to think? After each one of these scenarios plays out, each one of these thoughts play out, I want you to open your mouth and say out loud, stop. Stop. Like, so you say, I say to myself, or you say, well, how do I not want to be? And then you say, or how do I not want to think? Oh, you could always start tomorrow. You're too fat to start today. I want you to say, stop. Stop it. I want you to say it out loud, because you've got to hear your voice in your head telling you that you have control over that. So you may then, for the next week, go through all of those different ones, go through every one and say stop. The next week you do the behaviors. After each one you say stop. Now look, we're at 5 or 6 weeks now. Who cares? But you're eliminating the source of your unhappiness. Then you go through the feelings. How do I not want to feel? I don't want to, I don't want to feel sad and desperate. You just say stop. Just stop that. You're gaining control over it. Now, at the same time, the following week after you've gotten through all this, you got to start beginning to think about what the ideal you would be. What is the ideal you? How would you think? How would you act? What would you say to yourself? What would you say to others? How would you feel if you were 40 pounds lighter? What feelings would you have? And could you bring up those feelings right now? Now, why is it important for you to bring up the feelings of joy and happiness? Because we have to begin to condition the body with that new feeling. As we unlearn the old emotional state, we have to replace it with a new emotional state. And we have to recondition the body with a new mind. Now, you cannot get up from your seat in the morning after you've unlearned and you're on this week where you're actually creating the new ideal. You can't get up as the same person who sat down, because if you do, then physiologically and biologically, nothing has happened. You have to get up with a new mind. That means that you have to get up thinking in a new way, and you have to be feeling differently in your body. And when you're thinking and feeling differently now in your mind and your body, now you're in that state of possibility. Because you're changing not only the way your brain is wired by thinking differently, but you're actually changing your body because you're chemically sending it a new signal to the cells. So the thought is the electrical charge, the feeling is the magnetic charge, and now you're creating a new electromagnetic field around you, which is better than any diet. So, now what are we going to do in terms of behaviors in this new ideal? Well, this is where you start to make changes. So maybe around the 5th week or so, or the 6th week, you begin. If you eat 3 meals a day, and you eat 5 meals a day, or you eat three full meals a day, all you're going to do the first week, as you begin to change your actions, the ideal me the next week only eats salad at lunch. That's it. I don't care what you eat for breakfast or dinner, but during lunch, you're going to succeed in eating salad, and you're going to do that for the whole week. In other words, what I'm saying is, you have to get some of your behaviors to match your original intention. You have to get your mind and body working together. You have to have your experience aligned with your thoughts. You have to begin to get your actions equal to your intentions. And when you're able to unify those particular behaviors with what you're intellectually and intentionally setting out to do, now you're actually retraining the body to follow suit. It is preparing itself for this new future called the new you. Then the next week, you may say, now that I've maintained salad, and eating salad for a week, I'm going to eat salad this week, and for breakfast, I'm going to eliminate syrup or sugar or whatever you overeat on. I'm going to eliminate that. Or you may say, the following week, I'm going to eliminate snacks between lunch and dinner, or snacks after I eat dinner. And I'm going to do that for the next week. And then you rehearse that in to that new self. Slow, methodical changes that you can win at. If you have enough series of wins in an organized fashion, you will wind up going from point A to point B over time, and you'll be making internal changes as well as external changes. You have to start with the within. When I did hypnosis for years and I worked with overweight people, I never went for the physical changes, because I noticed that when I took away the unworthiness or the unhappiness, people started to lose weight because they were making better choices because they love themselves more. And if you love yourself more, you make a choice that's going to support you in the long run. So plan it out, write it all out. If it takes 4 months to go through this process and you're listing all of those things, how you're going to think, how you're not going to think, and then you start deciding on how you're going to regulate some of those behaviors, just one thing a week. And I would tell you the first couple weeks when you start this, I want you to overeat. Pig out. Just get it out of your system. Do it. And if you don't want to exercise, great. By around the 3rd month or 4th month, you'll be feeling so much better about yourself by making the internal changes. You'll want to exercise because you'll love yourself enough that you'll want to love yourself more, and you'll begin to support those changes.